the time, 'cause I wanna freeze this moment. Make it mine, hold you close. Now my heart's wide open. When I'm with you, suddenly I feel no pain. Do you make it go away? Do you make it?
Opportunistic, still rubbing panels as they go together. It's folded the wing mirror in on Gerardo's car.
Misano is such a difficult circuit for these guys to get right. There's a lot of start-stop sections around the back. It's a very, very quick section as well.
It's a fantastic start from the 23. They're 4 wide there by the look of it. Warning, the following video contains flashing imagery that may cause discomfort and or seizures for those with photosensitive epilepsy. Viewer discretion is advised.
Tell me somebody how long he will be on my mind. You will be on my mind.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Chaz Draycott Media and welcome to round 3 of season 2 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Wonderful to have you along here to watch this fantastic racing once again this evening, and still it seems I cannot quite estimate, especially when I can't hear it, when the end of that trailer is. So apologies for any shoddy transitions going on this evening, but we will work on it as we go. My name is Chaz Draycott, all filled up with COVID at the moment, so I apologise for any lack of enthusiasm or any horrendous noises you hear coming from me this evening. Then again, let's face it, that wouldn't make a difference to any other night. Alongside me, though, on the other end of the scale, we have the wonderful Edward May joining me. Ed, we've been looking forward to Daytona from the start of the season. This was where you took a win last time out, a very dominant win in the Aston Martin in its first appearance in the championship. Do you think we're going to get any standout performances like that this evening?
I don't know. It's going to be very circumstantial. I think if it all comes down to the opening few laps, of course. If you're stuck with someone in the tow, you are not going to get away around here. You've got those long banked straights at the sort of second half of the lap. And there's no real way you can keep someone at bay just from driving hard and fast in the infield, because it will all be undone around those banked bends. One thing I will say, though, is that Lewis Ward in this practice session is looking very capable indeed. He's currently top of the timing sheets in practice and has obviously got the momentum well behind him following his victory last time out at Sebring. I believe, Chaz, you can talk us through the championship standings as they stand from round 2.
I can indeed, yes. Thank you very much, Ed. And it is indeed Lewis Ward that is top of the pile. 46 points to Callum Brandt, who has 2 second-place finishes so far this season. He's made a bit of a theme of being the driver to catch up right near the end of the race and keep it very, very exciting. Rob Sharp is 10 points back in 3rd place, with Matthias Tem only 2 points behind him. Then look how close it is. We've got 2 points back to Ben Gregory, then 1 point to Mike Horder, 2 points to Christopher Smith, 1 point back to Simon Povey. Mark Johnson and John Barnes tied on 23, and they're only 1 point ahead of Stuart Clark. The new point system is working wonders. It's very close all the way through the field, and it's delightful to see that we aren't getting any runaway winners even at this early stage, because last season we got it quite early on in the championship. RD Simsport are top of the team's championship, but only by 9 points over Apex Racing Academy's Dan McCauley and Lewis Ward, and they're only 3 points ahead of Boosted Simsport, which is made up of Ben Gregory and his teammate Mike Horder. Mike's another driver, isn't he, Ed, that's been going very well at the moment at this early stage of the season, and well, he said last time out it was only his 2nd ever GT4 race here on iRacing, and well, he did a mega job to finish 3rd, with this man taking the win.
Yeah, he was very impressive last time out, and looks to be rekindling some of that form. The Aston Martin driver, currently the quickest driver in that car as well, as it stands. John Barnes, the other Boosted Motorsport driver in the Aston Martin, is in 5th place. So it appears that the McLaren is looking very strong here tonight at Daytona. It's really good in terms of top end. So is this car actually, the BMW, driven by Christopher Smith. And for me, he was probably one of my drivers of the evening. He had an amazing fight back through the field at Sebring following a disappointing early incident.
Yeah, actually, somebody, I think it was Heinz Mayer, who does the driver of the race each time round and does the wonderful awards, medals, certificates and all sorts for us here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. He brought up Christopher's lap chart, and he said, it's that ridiculous, it doesn't even fit on one screen. He had to stitch 2 screenshots together because he went that far down and then back up the order, that it was just a miracle that he got so many points out of that race. So hopefully Christopher Smith has a bit more of a straightforward race tonight. We have a lot of McLarens inside the top couple of positions though. This is Paul Goffin in the Sim Racing Magazine Racing Team A McLaren. We also have Gary Tall in 4th place outright in the Spontex CDM Esports car. Gary hasn't finished either of the races so far this season. He had a VR issue at Sebring, and he also had a multitude of issues, including a jump start and then further penalties at Road Atlanta, so he's going to be wanting more. Mike Horder has gone back out on track in the Boosted Simsport Aston Martin. Like you said, Ed, highest placed Aston Martin in the field so far. I think that Mike's going to be a real dark horse for this championship, you know, because he was incredible last time round.
Yeah, and it could just be the consistency that comes through from him. He was really, really strong out there last time, and I think he had a bit of an under-the-radar performance where we didn't see him all race, but he still got a podium, and I think that's something that will really help him out in future rounds of this championship, where more and more drivers start to race that bit harder and maybe make a few more mistakes towards the latter stages. That cool head could do wonders for his championship charge. Here we are, though. It's just spot up ahead of Aston Martin and only 4 thousandths off the pace. Simon Povey wasn't around too much earlier on, weren't we, Chaz? We were talking about the state of practice and noticing the very important absentee, last season's champion. Well, he's back out on track and already seems to be on form. Very quick lap time. I'm not sure if he got any slipstream or not, but regardless, he's put himself way up now in terms of contending for the race victory. And Lewis Ward, I think he would have been enjoying life at the top of the timing sheets in this practice session, enjoying time knowing that he was probably the quickest person out on circuit. And, well, with about 10 minutes to go before qualifying starts, his heart must have sang because he sees Simon Povey's connected to the session and no goes second fastest.
Yeah, indeed. It's going to certainly put you off your dinner, at least, that one. He's got John Barnes just behind him in the Boosted Motorsport B Aston Martin. He's another driver from Boosted that's been doing very well so far this season. It's very, very good to see Tom Weston back as well. We had a little glimpse at Tom just a moment ago before Simon went really flying up the order. It's good to have him back. Drew Fletcher is back off his holidays as well, and he's with us once more in the SRM Racing Team B Porsche, the millions, or what was it called? Millions and billions, or hundreds and thousands machine, as we were calling it. We also have Jacob Money back in the Sapphire Simsport Porsche. Now, he was one of the most exciting drivers to watch in the first round of the championship. Some of the people in the paddock would probably tell you he's one of the scariest drivers to race in the paddock, but he was still very entertaining for us. Unfortunately, didn't finish the race because he came together with Dan McCauley. A very simple little mistake by the two of them, basically just sort of coming together on the straight. Jacob ran a little bit wide as Povey goes faster than anybody else by 1 1/4 tenths of a second.
I don't think he got slipstream that lap as well.
Oh, that scares me. Well, it doesn't scare me, it makes me happy, but you know, it scares me for the rest of the field.
Lewis.
Yeah, I imagine. But look at the rest of the field though, Ed. I mean, top 14, 9 tenths of a second. All right, Spontex are going to have to clean that up now, Simon. But we've got a very, very close field all the way through, haven't we? And that's what we love to see, and it's what we always get in this championship, isn't it?
Yeah, and you can imagine it'll be even closer in the race with the slipstream allowing the drivers to stick together in one long train of GT4s. It's going to be a real corker of around here. Daytona always delivers, and I honestly cannot wait. We're going to obviously have to deal with the formalities of qualifying first, but qualifying around here is not really going to count for much other than the bonus point for pole position.
Absolutely, plenty for them to think about. It's nice and sunny on this side of the circuit here, especially on the banking, but it's going to go very dark very quickly here at Daytona, and I'm super excited to see. You can just see the glow. Look at that there. It looks wonderful, doesn't it? The sort of orange glow all around the circuit. Maybe very blurry, of course, but that's going to get better and better as the evening goes on. We're going to be racing into the night, though, here at Daytona. It's going to go dark quite quickly. So it should be within about the sort of first 20 minutes of the race. There's a lovely shot from the distance with the Ferris wheel spinning away. And then look at this, the field making its way out. I mean, I've got the camera turned way up in terms of volume. Can barely hear them, or can barely hear anything else. But what a fantastic noise that is, Ed. It's a wonderful sight as well. All these GT4 cars. We've got V8s, V6s, some turbocharged cars, some naturally aspirated cars, all making a good old racket as they make their way out of the pits.
Yeah, and it's all about trying to find that track position, find the window, because we have got several cars out on the circuit all at once, and that can make things very congested, and also, on the flip side, allow some drivers to perfectly time their laps to get the most amount of slipstream all the way down onto those bankings. First out, clear track in behind, is this man that we're on board with, Dan McCauley. I think he's doing the smart thing of just putting a lap in early and then worrying about what might happen afterwards in terms of slipstreaming and maybe playing a bit of team game. Actually, no, he's going onto the banking and slowing down, so maybe he's going to be helping out or getting a little help from his Apex Racing Academy teammate, Lewis Ward. Where is he out on circuit?
Just trying to find him now. He's just making his way around here to catch up with Dan now, so if we go on board with him, you'll see Dan staying up high. There's a couple of other cars in that as well, and they all don't want to lose this train of machines where the slipstream is going to be all important. So here comes Lewis. in behind the Aston Martin. I think Dan is going to be campaigning for Lewis to be the fastest here. He's going to try and give him the slipstream first, because of course Lewis is leading the championship. Now he's only 2 points ahead of Callum Brandt, but both of them then have a 10-point gap over Rob Sharp, who's also back out with us tonight in the Orris Racing Porsche. I tell you what, actually, seeing as he is championship leader, let's give him a bit of a early reward for that. We'll go on board with Lewis Ward, shall we? And let's ride on board for a glorious and very beautiful lap, I'm sure, of Daytona.
Going down through what they call the front stretch and in towards turn 1. Two cars invert the positions, and Lewis Ward has a bit of a car park in front, in towards turn 1. All about trail braking, keeping that car pitched in nicely and settled. A bit of a kink through turn 1 and 2. Going to the international horseshoe. Hard onto the brakes, pick your mark, use those cones on the inside to really pick it and go for a late apex as the car loops itself on the exit. And into turn 4, quick left-hand sweeper. You just glide it through nicely, flat out in these cars. Hard on the brakes again, use those curves on the inside. Basically, as soon as that slip road starts is when you want to get onto the brakes. It's very tricky. A lot of drivers, you do need to tend to turn in slightly earlier for that corner. Keep pitch then through this left hand. Can use those cones on the left, pick your markers. Nice tight line on the exit because there's less bumps. Really go for it, but there's been a huge check-up and a massive incident.
Good God.
Oh my word. Lewis Ward just gets absolutely clotheslined by what will look to be a flying Mercedes.
I did not need that. I just jumped out of my seat. That absolutely scared the daylights out of me. Callum Brandt's had his own issue here, by the look of it. Who was it that went around? Was it was a car around, definitely, just in front of... Right, so maybe if we...
it on cold tyres.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Oh my God. It was one of the Toto's Lemmings cars that went around. So if we go back and very quickly look at Ben Gregory going off. This is another look at it. So I saw there was a car around in front. You'll see it there, look. He hits the wall, but I thought he spun, and then that was it. And then all of a sudden there's that contact, and wow.
And it's in the worst possible point for Lewis Ward because he's sort of in the blind zone. There's a car obscuring his view. And from where you sit in the cockpit, you cannot see around it. You only see that there's a yellow flag. He lifts off slightly tentatively, not sure what's going on, and then all of a sudden gets a face full of flying Mercedes.
Kim Such there on our screens in the very bright green BMW M4 GT4. Certainly had a lot of green vinyl left over in the garage, and he's made contact with one of the Mercedes there, which is the 23 machine of Fausto Pinto. That's going to invalidate his lap time, so really he should be backing out of this lap now, but instead, well, he's remained in it, and Brian Krause has ended up on the grass, and that's going to invalidate Brian's lap as well. Gary Toll's now going to get held up by all of the shenanigans going on, and they're all going to be a little bit miffed at that, I can imagine. We've got a car off the road, which is Simon Povey having a spin, and he's decided to abort that and come back in. So it's all go here in qualifying, Ed. It's all kicking off. We've got 10 minutes left, and to be honest, with the lap being so long around here, nearly 2 minutes in these GT4 cars, they need to get a move on.
Yeah, I mean, I anticipate there might be a little bit of carnage in terms of just the sheer number of drivers we have out on circuit and causing a few issues, but I didn't expect it to be on this scale so early on. I thought it might be happening a bit later when the drivers really start to focus on getting those tenths shaved off of their lap times with the slipstream. It's very, very good for Gary Toll and Swantek CDM Esports at the moment. 3 tenths to the good in provisional pole position, and this will be a very richly deserved pole position if it will stay the way of Gary Toll, because he's had some torrid luck. I mean, last time out at Sebring, I think this race was really put to bed by a VR failure. I think, if I remember, Chaz, I think it was it Gary Toll that had that big VR issue at the end of the race, or towards the end of the race?
Yes, yeah, it was about halfway through, and he's going to be a lot happier now in this current situation with the fact that he could go and start right near the front of the grid. He's not going to be too happy with the fact he's got Fausto Pinto alongside him there, because Fausto and Gary actually came together here at Daytona last season and had an almighty shunt into turn 1. So he's going to be hoping that he goes away very soon. We've got Christopher Smith going fastest now in the BMW. Now, that's not a humongous surprise, is it, Ed? We did say that this is going to be a very quick car here tonight.
Yeah, the BMW, an absolute rocket ship in a straight line, and really nice at the slow speed corners as well. It just is nicely balanced. It's difficult to turn it in, but it just picks up. You can see there's no complaint from the car whatsoever. It just does its business and goes, which is perfect because you need that slow speed acceleration more than anywhere else, especially coming onto the banking for the first time. Which we'll see seeing coming up very shortly. Actually going to get a bit of help as well from his RD Simsport teammate, I think just up ahead. Very nice for him. That's Rob Sutherland.
Lovely shot, isn't it? All the way around the
That's
banking.
lovely, isn't it?
Absolutely. Looking back from the Aston Martin, we're going to get the sunshine now coming around. And you'll see just how low that sun is getting. It will get very dark. There's the reflection on the surface, and there is the sun glinting through the catch fencing. And the conditions will get cooler and cooler as it goes on here. We've got a lot of boosted cars inside the top 10. In fact, we've got 5 of them at the moment. We've got Ben Gregory for Boosted Simsport in the Aston Martin in 3rd place. Then we've got Paul Gosling in 6th for Boosted Motorsport B. John Tusting is 8th for Boosted Motorsport. Then Mike Horder for Boosted Simsport, and then John Roberts for Boosted Motorsport. So we've got 5 of them, like I say, in the top 10. Make that 4 as Brian Crowles goes 2nd fastest. The Belgian has certainly been great in qualifying. He's just not been able to pull it together properly in the races, has he? As Mike Horder now goes 3rd for Boosted Simsport. Great time.
Excellent stuff. Jacob Money's just going purple, I think, towards the end of a lap, but that might just be to start a fresh one. Simon Povey, on the other hand, is going purple midway through his lap. We'll have a look, though, as Christopher Smith continues to extend his advantage in pole position. Let's have a look at Jacob Money.
Oh.
What lap time will that be? A very strong lap time there. That's 6 tenths faster than Christopher Smith in a Porsche that is not favoured around here whatsoever. Let's have a look as well. Where is Simon Povey going to find himself with his lap time? He's currently last of the field.
Yeah.
You can imagine with this lap time he'll find himself in a little bit better of a situation. Breaks and just send it through. It's just nicely balanced, poised again. It's tight to really open out the corner on the exit and get on the football as early as possible. Which will help you to no end all the way along the banking and towards the timing beam.
Just looking there, Andy Hopley has made the point that we've not got many Porsches. Until the timing tower moved, he would have only seen 2. There's actually 3. It's unbelievable. We only had 1 Porsche last time out at Sebring, considering it was the car that everybody chose for Season 1. It's quite remarkable, and so is that. Cool. 152.622 by Simon Povey, the reigning champion. Goes 2 tenths quicker than anybody else without any slipstream at all. That is terrifying news for everyone else. He seems to like putting this McLaren in the wall afterwards, but look at this now. Lewis Ward ahead of Dan McCauley, very interestingly, but I think Dan has given him the main run to be going quickly across the line onto the start of the lap, although you'd expect him to give him that run on the exit, as Brian Crowles has now gone fastest by 1 and a bit tenths of a second. Gary Tall is 3rd as well, so you've got 2 Spontex CDM Esports cars up there. Rob Sharp now goes 4th fastest, 10 thousandths faster than Jacob Money, and all of a sudden what looked like an amazing time by Jacob has been beaten by 3.5 tenths of a second and by 4 other cars, Ed. It's amazing.
That is absolutely bonkers. Brian Crowell's pole position ahead of Simon Povey. That takes him doing to go quicker than Simon over 1 lap. So that's a really strong lap time from the Track Velocity Racing entrant. The only Belgian on the grid is Lewis Ward. He will look to claw his way up the order, getting onto pole position.
Wondering where Dan McCauley is in this.
Well.
He's supposed to be, yeah, he's just behind him.
Matthias Tem is. Matthias yet to set a competitive lap time. He needs to get a bit of a hurry on with only 4 minutes to go in the session.
He does, yeah, really does. Especially that's
really
only what,
pushing the limits.
like 2 laps?
Yeah, that is not a lot of time whatsoever. Lewis Ward was really pushing the limits there, though, through the bus stop. He was just okay enough to not get a penalty or a 1x, which will invalidate his lap time.
Dan McCauley as well, by the way.
Over the line, what it's going to be for Lewis Ward.
Oh, 3rd fastest for him. Dan McCauley moves up to 16th place, though. That is not where you'd expect to see Dan with the pace he's had, but it's going to be interesting to see how all of the different cars fare over the whole race again, because we've said this before, you know, the McLaren is very, very quick, but it kills its tyres. Paul Goffin's got a killed left-hand side as well by the look of it. He's had some sort of debacle somewhere. But around here, the tyres might not get killed as much because it's not a NASCAR doing the speeds that it would be doing, so it's not going to kill that front right tyre, is it?
No, it should be fine. This is a circuit that does tend to use the fuel more than it uses the tyres because you are flat out for so long, you're not putting that much wear into the rubber. The only place that does really wear the tyres is the bus stop, but even then it's quite even. 2 left-handers and 2 right-handers means that cars are always in a nice spot pretty much throughout the evening. With the cooler track temperatures in the night, I would imagine it's not going to be too much of a concern for the drivers. Some will still, of course, try the old trick of taking tyres as the fuel is done, but it isn't necessarily that big of an issue. It's mostly about keeping the heat into the tyres as well as the main thing in these GT4s.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to keep it within a nice, tidy operating temperature, don't you? It's certainly a car where, especially with the sort of slip that you can get from the rear end of a car like this, you know, with rear-wheel drive and the amount of horsepower they've got, you can kill the rears just as quickly as the fronts. You know, you can have a real nightmare with it, can't you? If you just if you take the mick with it, let's say, you know, if you just overdo it that bit, it's so easy to fall out of that window and step over the line.
Present as we see Callum Brandt going over the line. What will it be? Not a good time at all. In fact, no time whatsoever, but it will be the start of one final attempt for this man to get a lot higher up the order than I think he was expecting. He was chasing down a race victory last time out at Sebring. So far, in qualifying, he finds himself outside the top 10, which is astonishing when you think about the amount of pace that he has and he can find over the course of a race. But then again, a lot of drivers, not so great over one lap, but really good in race pace. And I have to say, I think Callum Brandt is one of them.
Yeah, for sure. And just to back up what Andrew Hopley's put in the chat as well, it's good to see Andy. He's mentioned that it's going to be a very tactical race, and I think he's spot on. You know, it's not going to be about out-and-out pace throughout the course of this one. It's all going to be people using their brains and when to come in and when to come back out again and what traffic you come back out into. That's going to be the key around here. But Brian Crowell's fastest at the moment for track velocity racing. That is awesome stuff as John Barnes goes up into 9th in the Aston for Boosted Motorsport B. We've got a bunch of boosted cars all together in the middle of the pack there, actually. But Brian Crowell's, well, he's going to be on his way to get 1 championship point for pole position, and I'm sure he'll be over the moon with that. That will mean, if he keeps it, that we've had 3 different pole sitters in 3 races. These are the final moments now for RD Sim Sports' Callum Brandt. Matthias Tem is also coming across the line to improve on his time by the look of it, just ahead of these guys. Qualifying reaches 0 on the timer. Let's see what they've got in the tank.
He needs this. He's down in 28th place, last out of everybody. So any improvement will be a good improvement for Matthias Tem. Breaks the timing beam. What will it be?
Oh, wow.
Only 20th.
20th position, and Callum Brandt didn't get a valid time on the board that threw him high enough up, but Dan McCauley jumps up to 8th right at the end there. Right at the end of the session. Very well done to Dan. John Roberts, he's got an improvement in his first sector, but the rest of the lap hasn't been a big improvement. He's got his teammate John Tusting just in front of him. These two racing for Boosted Motorsport. They're right together on the grid as well, actually, 16th and 17th, and it stays that way for the pair of them. Fausto Pinto is going to be next up across the line. He improves up to 20th place. So too does Paul Gosling. He goes 13th.
Mike Horder, 4th.
Yeah, look at that. Wow. Mike Horder, and Povey's gone fastest.
Taken pole.
Povey gets it right at the end. Wow, Simon Povey was certainly hiding that one. He didn't come up that much on the timing at the bottom there, but yeah, Simon Povey, what a boy indeed. Well done to Simon. Amazing. Right at the death of the session. Who's left? Mark Johnson for Legends Racing is going to come into the pits. Actually, he's going to abandon that lap. Is Philip Hopley going to finish his lap time in the Waterside Gym E-Racing Mercedes? He is. He's going to continue on. Large V8 rumble of the Merc crosses the line. Matthias Tem seems to be on an improvement, but of course The session is already over. Philip Hopley does not improve by the look of it. Tem seems to have... Well,
I think he's just setting a lap just to see what he could have done.
Yeah, I think he is, yeah. But 20th place. Well, 21st now, of course, with the improvement of others. That's not... Well, I mean, he's been second on the grid in both races so far this season as Mydas Tem. So that's a massive upset, especially
we'll
for
see
him.
what the lap time is going to be when he comes over the time. We'll just see what it would have been. What's the time been? Will it show it for us?
Not on the timing tower.
It doesn't show it up on the timing tower at all for us, unfortunately. But
no,
there was greens pretty much across the board for Mydas.
That's a massive shame. I wonder if you go in the session itself, Ed, within iRacing, whether you can see it on there. If you could have a look for us and see.
A look. Qualifier. No, it doesn't appear either. It's not registered by iRacing.
Right. Intriguing.
On our side.
Intriguing. Well, it's a massive shame that for Mydas Tem. Certainly got the ability to be right up there in the field, but he's down in 21st position. But Simon Povey is going to take his second pole position of the season, and it's a welcome return to Simon after missing out at Sebring. So, time to have a look at a grid, shall we? Let's bring this one up because I believe we're going to get just a short sort of pace lap or formation lap here, starting on the back straight. Simon Povey, car 1P1 once again. That's his second pole of the season. Just missing out, though, was Brian Crowles by 76 thousandths of a second. A brilliant time, though, by Brian. Very well done indeed. Lewis Ward makes it on to third place on the grid this time round. He's going to be hoping to get a win, though, with a lot of slipstream and maybe a fuel strategy to help. Mike Horder will line up alongside him on row 2. Then we have Simon Povey's teammate Gary Tall for Spontex CDM Esports on row 3 alongside Rob Sharp. Third in the championship at the moment is Rob. Jacob Money is fourth. Good return for him. He's alongside Christopher Smith in the RD Simsport BMW. I'm keeping my eye on him. Dan McCauley is ninth with John Barnes alongside him to round out the top 10. And then we've got Boosted Simsports Ben Gregory alongside Paul Goffin on row 6. Next up is Mark Johnson and then Paul Gosling on row 7. Callum Brandt is down in 15th place alongside John Roberts. Both of those two have had better qualifyings before. John Tusting and Rob Sutherland make up row 9, with Ralph Mayer and Fausto Pinto rounding out the top 20. Mydas Tem will start 21st. Keep an eye on him as well, with Kim Such alongside him. Well, you can't miss him, to be honest with you. Same goes for Tom Weston, both fans of Bright Green. He's 23rd, with 24th place Heinz Mayer just behind him. Then the last two rows of the grid, we have SRM Racing Team B taking up row 13, which is Ryan Penny and Drew Fletcher, and then Philip Hopley and Andy Marston lining up 28th on the grid. So then, the field is just getting underway now, I'm told. The frame rate is going to die for the for the opening moments, but that's all fine. Who's your money on, Ed? Because this could go any which way here. It's already going dark, as you can see. That's going to be an extra element to consider as well.
Yeah, I have to say, if he's able to break the toe, Simon Povey is a big favourite for this one. It's all about if Brian Crowles can stick with him after the start. Because you've seen Brian, he's qualified well, but his race pace does die away. And that could be the difference maker, of course. You've got Lewis Ward in the background who will be hungry up the inside in towards turn 1 to try and make up any positions if he can do. And then Mike Horder, like you say, the dark horse for the championship, and also I think for a race victory here tonight. He's in 4th and we'll be able to see pretty much all of the action unfold for him into turn 1 and can pick his best moment and best positioning of his car to try and make some gains.
It's certainly going to be exciting. I'm intrigued to see what Brian Crowles can do in that Mercedes as well. He's the highest placed Mercedes on the grid by a good 14 positions over anybody else. There's a few of them trying to hang back and get a run, but before you know it, we're going to get underway. And round 3 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge gets underway, and a fantastic start by Simon Povey sees Lewis Ward take advantage and go down the inside of Brian Crowles as well. What's Mike Horder going to do? Can he go down the inside into there as well? Is he going to be able to slot the inside line for that Aston Martin? Doesn't look like it at this point. He's going to manage to stay side by side though with Brian Crowles. We'll keep our eye on everyone else as they make their way through the very tricky turn 1 here at Daytona. It's not easy to get around there on your own, never mind when there's a load of other cars around you. Simon Povey holds on to the lead though in the opening couple of corners through the International Horseshoe. Doesn't seem like there's any other shenanigans. Mydas Tem's gained 3 places already here, Ed, and I tell you what, he's not going to stop there, is he?
No, he's got a car just to his left-hand side. I think that's John Tusting, who's just nosing out ahead, side by side, in towards turn 4 is so tricky. They give each other plenty of room. As Brian Crowles has retaken the 3rd place from Mike Horder. the inside of Matthias Tem onto the brakes against John Tusting there, and there's a huge pile up, and that's Mark Johnson, oh my word, dropping down through the order, losing 15 places into stone dead last, 28th car out of 28. As there's a moment, and who's that spinning around? Is that Tom Weston? Yes, it is. Oh my word, Chaz, he just can't catch a break.
He cannot indeed. Has a little spin there coming onto the banking, and that's unfortunately going to drop him way down. And importantly, out of the slipstream, Brian Krause is right in the thick of it here. He's got Mike Horder alongside him. Gary Toll's got the best seat in the house for this, though, as they go into the bus stop chicane. Good awareness by Mike Horder to get out of that, but Brian's got in a little bit hot now. They're both going to get the run on him on the exit, but this means the whole time the two leaders can disappear off up the road. That is Simon Povey and Lewis Warden. Listen to that. There's a car coming through, and it's Rob Sharp on the left-hand side of Gary Toll. I've already lost my voice, flipping heck, but this is excellent stuff. And even behind us, I dare to say, look at them all piling in behind. We've got the two Aston Martins of Dan McCauley and Ben Gregory.
Here we go, watch all of these cars in towards turn one. There's about 7 of them all battling out for one position. Let's have a look. Formation flying onto the brakes. This is scary. It's 3 wide with Gary Toll right in the middle. Is he going to get through unscathed? We've seen this unfold terribly in previous rounds. I believe it was the second... which race was it? I can't remember. I think it was the 3rd race, but it was lap 2 where all the drama unfolded. Thankfully, it's nice and safe for the moment. But then look in towards the International Horseshoe. Oh, there is a bit of a door banging. Look at that sideways. 2 wheels up in the air for Ben Gregory, who gets the move made. Lovely stuff from the 113, if not a little bit scary.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Contact mid-apex. Lovely move, though, wasn't it? Christopher Smith there, just lurking in the background, knows that he's got the pace in terms of top end speed. There's his teammate going for a little bit of a dive up the inside. Callum Brandt, who's already gained 4 places at the beginning of this race. Matthias Tem has gained 7. And you can see him now. He's now part of this fight. It's all kicking off just because of, well, what was a little bit of a squabble. These are all fighting, let's not forget, for a podium place. Mike Horder and Brian Krause are basically at the front, squabbling away, slowing everyone up. And look at them all going on the bank. And
look at the massive train of cars. I don't know how that all sorted itself out, but yeah, you're right. Ben Gregory did try and make that lovely move down the inside, but I think Gary just wanted to get the car turned in as hard as possible to make sure that he didn't hit the car on his outside. Look at Brian Krause. It's like someone's put a rocket in the back of that Mercedes. Absolutely flies past Mike Horder on the way into the bus stop chicane. But all of these cars piling behind were all part of that train before. John Roberts has got a real train of them behind him. That's Rob Sutherland. Oh, no, John's off. Oh, that's a big hit. And he's going to come right back into the path of the others. Somehow doesn't get hit by anybody else. Hold your breath. But I think he just lost it all on his own there, did John?
Yeah, he was already losing it, and I think there was a car close behind that couldn't really take any evasive action. We'll have a look at it. I mean, there was already a bit of a car park there, and he backs out of it very sensibly. Let's have a little look from the onboard of John Roberts.
He's got a car on his inside at this point, hasn't he? There's already somebody on his left.
Yeah, I think that's Paul Goffin.
Certainly a McLaren-y noise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, we can have a look. Yes, it's Paul Goffin and then Rob Sutherland behind him.
Gives the position too, and there's another sort of colour that has a little look at the inside. You can hear that it's going, and it's just helped around, but there was nothing that the RD Simsport car in behind could have done. I'm not sure which one that was. I think that was Rob Sutherland.
It was Rob, yeah.
Martin.
I think it might have just slightly unsettled. Oh, no.
Oh, my word.
Gary Toll again cannot catch a break. We've got also Christopher Smith involved in that. But I think there was initial contact from Rob that might have just lifted the car slightly, might have just lifted the rear end.
I don't think there was. I couldn't have heard. I think you would have heard it. I think you could hear the tyre scraping, and then there's the contact.
Oh my goodness me.
Oh my word.
Goffin gets it all sorts.
Goffin.
Yeah, all sorts of wrong on the way in. Let's just have a look at this again. We'll go on board with Paul. So he's got the run.
I want to go on board with a 55 as well, if you can.
That's Paul Gosling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. They do check up quite a bit in front, and then Gosling comes in. You see Goffin there as well. Oh, wow. And then Gary Toll, well, he was already on the outside line and unfortunately had nowhere to go. Gosling did an amazing job not to hit anybody there, didn't he?
No. That was partly why I wanted to have a look there as well. Gary Toll, I think you must be having some sort of damage because that car is not behaving itself through the bus stop as up at the front of the field.
Yeah, we need
Just noticed it as well. Lewis Ward and Sam Povey almost matching each other for lap times. Lewis Ward marginally quicker, and that is the fastest lap of the race thus far, at least until Callum Brandt just came in and set one that was even quicker. Quite some margin as well, nearly 0.6 of a second faster.
It's worth noting at this point that Mydas Tem has gained 12 positions in this race so far. I'm not really sure what's going on with iRacing's shadows at the moment, but they seem to be very exaggerated on the ground, which I'm not sure if I like that or not. They've always been quite nice and subtle with their shadows, but it's almost like the sun's come out in the middle of the night. It's very strange. But Mydas Tem has gained 12 places. Callum Brandt, 2 cars ahead, has gained 8. But Jacob Money's having a bit of a tough few opening laps here, actually. He's lost 1 place from where he started at the moment. He's about to lose a second if he can't hold off Mydas Tem. John Barnes is one of the only drivers in the field just behind this. That is actually where he started this race, and he's got a good view of this battle going on in front. But look what I mean about the shadows there. It's all a bit over the top on certain surfaces. It's a bit strange, but still, they've made a better sim than I ever could. And this is just an excellent train of cars here, Ed, and all it takes is for them to sort it all out on the oval, and then they get back to the infield and it all concertinas back up again.
Yeah, Mydas Tem will need to have his work cut out all the way around the outside in towards the bus stop. He's getting slipstream though off Callum Brandt ahead, and that has sealed the deal before they even got onto the brakes. But Jacob Money concedes the position. John Barnes now needs to focus on getting a good run because Mydas Tem has messed up the bus stop something fierce. He might be able to gain not just 1 position but 2, because look at the run from this Aston Martin. It is going like stink at the moment and will surely be quicker than both of them in towards turn 1. He's going to go around the outside of the Porsche, and that essentially boxes Jacob Money in. Jacob's going to give a bit of a bump though to this is a teamwork, isn't it, between Jacob Money and Mydas Tem. Get hard onto the brakes all the way around the outside. Can John Barnes pull the move off? Oh my word.
Wow.
You know what? He's only gone and done it. Maybe not on the exit, but that was a really good try. And he's actually going to have the inside for the International Horseshoe, where he can properly try and seal the move. There's chopping and changing further in front, as per usual.
Oh, lovely.
It's a lovely little move by John Barnes, set up from an amazing run, wasn't it? All the way around the outside.
Was indeed, yeah. That got set up on the exit of the bus stop. It was fantastic driving that by John Barnes. Love to see it. Now here's Brian Crowles, who once again is defending from a train of cars like he was at Sebring. He's having to hold people off all of the time, is Brian. I almost feel bad for influencing him to join the championship, to be honest with you. But he's a lovely lad, is Brian, and we've seen his enthusiasm in the interviews, and he's just loving being out there racing. This whole group is 7.8 seconds off the back of Lewis Ward, which is pretty scary, to be honest, because we're not even 10 minutes into the race, but it shows you just how much the slipstream is important around here, and all these drivers need to be careful not to lose the people ahead of them. Now, somebody in the week, I think it might have been Rob Sutherland, I was messaging Rob, talking to him about the championship and a few other bits and bobs, and he was saying, does Heinz Mayer or Ralph Mayer ever wait for each other? Because they always seem to be together on track, and he's absolutely right. They are always glued together, aren't they, these pair?
They are. They're pretty much separate as well in terms of their qualifying times as well. They are very even, it appears, but now you can see a little bit of a battle between Christopher Smith, who gets one of the Totus Lemons cars, and there's, I think, another move being made on the other Totus Lemons car. Drew Fletcher getting ahead of Heinz Mayer, Christopher Smith getting ahead of Ralph Mayer. So again, they get overtaken at the same time as well.
They do indeed. Let's have a look back at this, because we've got the 2 boosted SimSport cars and Dan McCauley having, well, I imagine Dan's having some sort of bright and colourful flashback as Ben Gregory goes way out wide, and maybe a little bit too wide there for his own good, and he loses it. Oh, he just misses Callum Brandt, and he's in the middle of the road, gets out of the way. Well, he doesn't get out of the way, but Mydas Tem gets out of the way. But wow, Ben just overdoes it, and that's how easy it is to do around here though, Ed, and especially when you're managing all of the weight transfer through that corner. You lean on that front right, all of a sudden you have to pitch the front end of the car up in the air again to get on the throttle, and well, it goes wrong like that.
Yeah, so that must have happened to Mydas Tem actually, because he's just been overtaken by John Barnes, Jacob Money, and Rob Sharp. Because, oh my word,
what were we saying?
They crash at the same time as well.
What were we saying? Heinz Mayer and Ralph Mayer, completely inseparable. We've got Fausto Pinto, or Ryan Penny actually, off the track as well. So something's gone on here. This is what's happened to Mayer and Mayer. Oh no, he uses Drew Fletcher like a cue ball. Oh, he sends Drew into his brother. That's a big old hit as well, actually.
Yeah, actually, Drew got away with that relatively cleanly as well, I think, if we have a look. He's been able to carry on in 18th
He just drives
place.
on. He just carries
Drew
on.
Fletcher's just perfectly fine.
Oh, there's been
Somehow.
There's been some sort of big shunt for Ryan Penny. Ryan Penny and Fausto Pinto. Oh, Fausto just keeps coming over. And then Ryan just gets avoided, but oh, that's a nasty hit on the wall. Completely misaligns the left-hand side of the car, but Fausto just kept coming over to the right.
Exactly. Can't go any further to the right. There's a car there, and that car can't really go into the grass. And now, you say about the strategy coming into it. I wonder if Lewis Ward is maybe pulling a few punches and saving some fuel.
Yeah, you'd definitely think so, wouldn't you? Definitely think so, especially when you're behind someone as quick as Simon. You know, he's dragging you along at optimum race pace, but he's using all of his fuel doing it as well.
I want to see what happened if he can, Chaz. I'm not sure if it's come up on the event field, but Matthias Tim getting overtaken by those 3 cars because he had a really good charge up the field and now has sort of dropped off the pace a little bit. I'm sure he's got damage, perhaps.
I will find that for you. This is Tem with Jacob Money and John Barnes. This was almost a repeat of what we saw before.
He had a slowdown. I think he was just clear on the slowdown penalty.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then Ben. Yeah, Ben was in the road as well, and yeah, it all culminated into a poor few moments, unfortunately, for Matthias Tem.
Here, Lewis Ward and Simon Povey continuing their dominance out in front. Taking nearly 9 seconds clear of Ryan Crowells. Still got Mike Horder, Callum Brown, Dan McCauley, John Barnes and co for company.
You know, despite Matthias Tem losing those positions, he's actually still gained the most places in the race out of anyone. He's gained 11 spots. Callum Brandt has gained 10 as well. Let's not forget he started this race in 15th position, and he's got himself right in the middle of a train now where he could potentially save a bit of fuel here and there. And we've seen what he's like at the end of a race compared to the McLarens. If he can spearhead this attack, get ahead of Mike Horder and then ahead of Brian Crowells in their very beautifully painted machines, a very brightly coloured group, then Callum Brandt could very easily be on for another podium here. And it's just epic to watch him race, isn't it?
Yeah, Brian Crowells, though, will be hungry for his first podium. And
Lord.
what they're going to be going 3 wide. And this is going to be good news for Matthias Tim, who's at the back of this train to catch up, as they're going to surely slow each other down. An absolute storm. Look at that, all the way around the outside. Callum Brandt, is he going to pull the move off for the podium places? He's just slightly slower up the mid-corner and on the exit. He will have the inside line at the International Horseshoe. He'll be braking very late. I say he's actually quite good with brakes. You wouldn't expect it from being such a big burly beast. A little bit of a squirrely exit. He continues to go pretty much neck and neck now in towards turn 4.
Oh,
There's a little bit of grass getting kicked up as he turns in. That's not going to help him out whatsoever, and that allows him, or rather allows his rival, Ryan Crowells, to slot back up into 3rd place.
look at this, Ed. It's just bonkers.
Oh, it's
I love this championship. Can I just say that? This is... Oh, I've been all grumpy all weekend because my car's broken down and there's loads of other stuff going on. I've got COVID just before Christmas. This has cheered me right up, and it's not even been 15 minutes of racing yet. This is epic stuff. Look at the gorgeous scenery as well.
Oh.
The sky, the sun's going down. This is just going to get more and more spicy when the lights go out.
It's already spicy at the moment. I don't know if I can handle any more spice. What do you need? Do you need milk for that? I need a whole cow full of milk, I think, to get through all of this. There's a car just getting out of the way. I think that might be Ryan Penny.
Yeah, at the moment we're at Jalapeno, but soon we're going to be at Naga.
This will be...
It's going to be
something fierce.
This is fierce and all, you know, because Lewis is not leaving Simon alone, you know. He's right with him. But look, yeah, saving fuel for days here. And if anything, that's going to annoy Simon even more than if he was trying to overtake him, to be honest.
Because Simon can't do anything. The only thing he could do to save fuel is basically give up the lead of the race by, well, braking a lot earlier and giving the inside line to Lewis Ward, or even lifting even more himself.
Yeah, but then you know, you risk losing time to everyone else. Oh, Callum's absolutely sent Brian for an hot dog. He's absolutely sent him for a hot dog. And Callum Brandt makes it up into 3rd place. I thought Brian had gone in hot. It looked like for a moment he might have just had it saved, but then he didn't. And then all of a sudden Callum just tucked it to the inside. He knew it was going to happen. and he took the position. Christopher Smith has come into the pits very early here. We've had a couple of pit stops so far. Ben Gregory came in not long ago as well. Ralph Mayer's been in. Ryan Penny, of course, in for damage. Same with John Roberts and Mark Johnson. So there's a few that are maybe early scheduled stops, but also they are maybe just to fix damage or just to try and get out of traffic, as stupid as that sounds. Martin Pearson in the chat, by the way, he said could he short fuel the first stop? He could. Absolutely he could, yeah. If you mean Simon, that is.
Yeah, I mean, he's done it pretty much every single round of every single race this season, and last season as well, for that matter. It's a good strategy that he tends to use to great effect, but oh my word, Gary Tall. We were saying off air, we hope that he can have a bit of a better evening, because the first 2 races of the season, get your seat back in, the first 2 races of the season have not gone his way. Let's have a little look. They're side by side into turn 4. There's a slightest of touches. Absolutely nothing in it, and as soon as you're thrown off into the grass, it doesn't slow you down whatsoever. A hefty hit into the wall, and that is essentially race over for Gary Tall.
Yeah, it's a big shame. I mean, there was just enough room on the inside, but I think Philip was just making sure they didn't shorten the line off too much. And you heard there, Gary actually got back on the throttle, didn't he? He tried to throw the car away and ahead of the cars coming around the corner just to make sure he didn't hit them, and fair play to him, because that's not an easy decision to make when you know that your race could potentially be saved if you manage to keep it out of the barriers. But I think at that point he knew it was done. Dan McCauley and Mike Horder getting very close together there. I think Dan actually got off the brakes to make sure that he didn't turn in on his fellow Aston Martin driver, and once again the positions change. This battle is absolutely excellent to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I've just seen as well, Fausto Pinto's been in a battle with Kim Such, and I think the Portuguese driver's just gotten ahead. KDS Racing driver. See it there. Look at the replay, it's just the sheer run, isn't it? All the way around the outside.
Yeah, great run.
Remove that.
Fantastic sight as well. Very bright green BMW. It's awesomely bright. Love Kim Such's car. No fancy livery on it or anything. It's just green, and I love that. It's very, very green.
So look at John Tusting, who's keep Rob Sutherland in the bay. Actually, I was going to say he was closing in on Matthias Tail on the past few laps, but actually Matthias has now found a little bit more pace. As Philip Hockley has had a moment of his own, coming into the second hairpin.
Yeah, I'm not
There's
sure
a car around him. I'm not sure if there was contact or not. Let's have a little look. It's Andy Marston. If there is any contact, no, it's just Philip Hockley carrying a little bit too much speed. The car understeers off. But nice little drift to keep it out of the wall.
Yeah, it looked quite nice from that angle, didn't it, really?
Actually, I was not for a second there. It was...
oh, no. Oh, sorry, Ed.
Where's Mike Johnson gone? Yeah.
Yeah, he just pulled it over there. I think he was already a lap down, and, well, we all know...
I think he was.
No, he was right down the bottom of the order before. Yeah, he's only done 8 laps, so he was a lap down. We all know that it's... Oh, Simon Povey's in the pits already. Wow, that's... Actually, I suppose it's not that early, actually. It's 20 minutes in, isn't it?
Pit window opened around about 5 minutes ago, which is why we saw Christopher Smith come in for his early pit stop, trying to recapture the smart strategy that got him such a good result last time out at Sebring following his early disappointment. Now Lewis Ward, what is he going to do to respond? I think as soon as you've seen that Simon Povey's coming early, you might as well just stay out as long as possible and hope Simon encounters a bit of traffic, which he might just do. I think he's going to come out just behind Paul Coffin. That might not really be the best position for him. Let's have a little look.
You're right, he's behind Mr. Coffin.
So for Lewis Ward, what he needs to do now is just focus on putting in as quick a lap times as he can and have the shorter final stop, because that's really going to help him out towards the end of the race.
Yeah, Simon Povey was stationary for 22.7 seconds, and the other guys that have stopped so far that we think might have short-fueled it in that first one, Christopher Smith was stationary for 17.5 seconds, but then Ben Gregory was stationary for 13.2 seconds, so there's about 9 seconds difference.
Ben Gregory will be needing an extra pit stop. I think his one was for damage by the looks of things. Coming in on lap 6, I don't know if that's going to get you till the end.
Yeah, it's very true. Maybe a bit of damage involved there as well. He's racing Andy Marston for position here. I think Ben was maybe thinking he was lapping him for a moment there. They're side by side on the exit. Side by side around the bank, and look at the McLaren go. He's well, Andy's making him go up there, to be fair to him. He's fighting this one hard. He's not hugging that yellow line all the way down. Ben needs to be careful here not to run into the back corner of that McLaren.
Well, I think as well, Andy needs to be careful not to run wide. He's got to pick a line and stick with it. He was moving about a little bit on that left-hand side of the circuit, around the outside. I think he realises Benny's just a little bit quicker at the moment and gives it up.
Yeah, he says, stuff you in your rainbow Aston. Right, we've got the pit lane camera that I worked on earlier that I can't seem to find right now. So we can see when cars are in the pit lane like this, and we can see iRacing's lovely square shadows. They're very new, exaggerated shadows that seem to be not great, to be honest with you. And you can see there, down the start-finish straight goes Simon Povey. He's gone through. Paul Goffin goes past. That's Callum Brandt coming out of the pits. Then you're going to have John Barnes, then Brian Crowles, then Jacob Money, all coming out of the pits together. They've got this horrible pit exit where you've got to creep around here, and then look how narrow it is here, Ed. It's so tough to get this right. Now there's the new pit exit, so you can't get off the limiter until very late on here. The wall isn't as jagged as it used to be as well, because it used to be like 8-bit, that wall. And there is Ben Gregory down the inside. Hello, Ben. Got a little bit too hot, and as Brian tapped him.
Oh, no.
Oh, Brian drove into him there, to be honest with you. There was no other excuse for that.
Yep.
Tried to get a
cutback.
Flash. Yeah, understandably. And Jacob Money, he's just trying to stay out of trouble here, because so far he's done one race in this championship, and he's known for the fact that obviously he had that little mistake, and him and Dan McCauley had a massive accident, so he's going to be trying to stay off our radars for this one. Ben Gregory making what can only be described as an angry move down the inside there, and he's still flashing, which I agree with the odd flash here and there, but not every time you come out of a corner. I say that as if he's done it every single corner so far. He's only done it twice.
He's not done that one.
No, but yeah, there's no point to keep doing it. Mike Horder and Dan McCauley side by side. No guesses for who's coming in and who's not. Dan McCauley carries on. Lewis Ward is in the pits now from the race lead, so we'll have to try and keep our eye on where Simon Povey is. Let's get our wonderful camera back up once again. Now, where is Simon going to be? Because we've got Mike Horder, Rob Sharp, Matthias Tem, Rob Sutherland and John Tusting all coming into the pits as well. Simon is going to be, unless Fausto Pinto comes in the pits now, which he has, Simon's going to be the next car that you see pop up around that corner.
There you go, whizzing on by.
And there goes Lewis Ward.
Not moving,
but
he's going to be in the lead, you know.
He's going to be on the pit limiter for a while though here, let's not forget. Simon's going to have quite the speed on the exit. He's going to be able to go around him, and he's on the throttle earlier as well. Simon Povey's gone. Look, Simon's going to be way past him on the right, and he's gained a few lengths, but I tell you what, Ed, that's not a massive amount to have gained, is it? Flipping heck.
No, it isn't. And having a look at the pit lane time, the time spent in the pits, Lewis Ward was a whole, basically, 2 seconds more than Simon. That basically means that
about what?
A bit.
It's about 1.4, to be honest. 1.4 difference as this is erupting. Ben Gregory and Brian Crowles hopefully not going to make contact.
Oh dear.
Well, we've seen Ben do that in another league, if I'm honest with you. Tries to squeeze a driver to one side of the circuit when it naturally goes over to the other side, and it's just not on. It's just not on.
We'll have a little look.
There's been another debacle, but like I don't know.
Let's have a look from Chopper Cam, because for me I think that's Brian Crowles that might move to the right into him. We'll have a little look.
Oh wow, they're 3 wide at that point as well.
So
yeah,
there's plenty of space for Brian on the left there.
Yeah, fair play, and apologies to Ben for jumping to such a quick conclusion. You see a driver's attitude, and you saw it before, you know, with the flashing the lights and a big send straight back down the inside, and it just seemed like retaliation. But yeah, it can be certainly misunderstood from my side of things. I think I just take it. I get too personal about it. sorry, Ben. I just get very defensive. But Dan
Ben's
McCauley,
a lovely boy. He'll understand.
Oh yeah, we'll make him understand. Simon Povey, second in the race outright at the minute, but of course is going to go past Dan McCauley, who's now in the pits. And there you go. Simon Povey now re-inherits the race lead. Lewis Ward going with him. Now, where's Dan going to come out in all of this? Because he has pitted a lot later than a number of drivers around him. And to be honest,
Brandt's going to go ahead.
Yeah, Callum's had a belter again, though, hasn't he? He's just absolutely on it. Look at him go. He's
12 positions gained.
He's gapped everybody behind him, hasn't he? That sounded like some debacle. What was that?
That might be Dan McCauley just hitting something in the pits potentially.
Yeah, maybe.
He comes out right in the middle of this fight.
That's Jacob Money on his inside, Mike Horder in front of him. Now Jacob Money's the last car that Dan's going to want next to him, especially after Road Atlanta, because these two had a colossal accident at the end of the race, and Dan McCauley slides in front. Brian Crowles and Rob Sharp are side by side behind them as well. Half an hour nearly done in this race now. Brian's so late on the brakes there. Rob just concedes for the moment. Again, Rob's had a quiet race, but he's dropped 3 places from where he was before. So he's not had the usual under-the-radar performance where he sort of creeps forward through the field.
Brian Krause as well as, again, he qualifies so well, but his race pace and maybe racecraft is slightly lacking. He's dropped back 6 places from the beginning of the race down into 8th position. That's still a really good top 10 result. It's just about in the races, his pace just drops away a bit.
Yeah, it's just one of them, isn't it? I don't know. It's hard to explain for a driver because you don't know what could be going on behind the scenes that could cause a pace difference, but it's just one of those strange happenings throughout.
Can't really be set up.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's fixed setup. We've got 3 boosted cars all glued together again here. We've got Ben Gregory, John Tusting. Oh no, sorry, that's an RD car in front as well. We've got Paul Gosling on the back of this in the BMW, which we've not seen much of yet, actually. We've not seen much of Paul, have we, in this one?
No, I think the only time we saw him was actually on that incident in towards the second hairpin where he came face to face with the stationary Gary Tall. Other than that, he's been very much under the radar. But you can say that about, well, you can't really say that about many drivers this race, considering a lot of the field is in that one train altogether. In such, about as under the radar as you can be in a bright green BMW. Having a very nice race. Currently up 5 positions. Let's watch them all into first corner. And there's a little bit of a tap. And again, Ben Gregory through that corner. It's just not working out for him.
It really isn't. I think he had contact with Rob Sutherland that upset the car, you know. Rob runs a little bit wide and then Ben's on the power and, well, you can imagine if Ben parks it at this point. He's had a very frustrating time of it, although he has carried on, so hats off to him. His commitment is unquestionable. But we need to go back to the front, I'm afraid, Ed, because we've got Simon Povey 0.2 of a second now ahead of Lewis Ward. We're back at the stalemate after the pit stops and after almost half an hour of racing, and these two have got another 9 and a bit seconds over 3rd place, Callum Brandt.
Now, if I was Lewis Ward, I'd do exactly what I did on the first stint, but do one little change towards the end, and that is try and overtake Simon Povey, get track position before you come into the pits, or before you maybe can anticipate Simon coming in, because that is going to be, I think, a real difference maker, is the track position as they come into the pits. Lewis Ward was likely to have a shorter final stop. You compare it to Simon Povey. Of course, a lot of it is going to come down, really, I think, to overall pace when they are basically away from each other on circuit. As John Barnes has got plenty of pace in that boosted motorsport Aston Martin, but not enough to keep Dan McCauley at bay, who sweeps around the outside. Oh, very close to making contact. Really fit a fingernail between the pair of them.
Oh,
in towards the International Horseshoe.
Oh, it's all getting a bit
say,
sketchy
yeah,
there.
I mean, that little 40 car was a little bit squirrely onto the brakes.
Well, it was more that John Barnes moved strangely over to the right all of a sudden. Sorry, Ed. He just had this weird moment where he was sort of over to the left, and then I think he saw Brian coming down the inside, and it's like he just turned right to try and cover him off, but it just didn't work. Brian's late on the brakes again down the inside of Dan McCauley. Brian's good at that, actually. I mean, there's been a few moments where he scared the life out of us, but to be honest with you, he's a demon on the brakes in that Merc.
Yeah, I think as well what you said about the little bit of movement from the Aston Martin, that's something that just happens with the car when you hit the brakes a little bit too hard. The ABS kicks in a very weird way in the Aston. It does make it sort of wiggle about, which is nothing you really want to have happen when you are going side by side with someone. That was a lovely move, wasn't it, by Brian Crowles, just carving his way through all of the, well, chaos and carnage, it's fair to say. But now Mike Porter will be crossing his fingers that they continue to squabble and give him all the time and space he needs to break away in 4th place.
Unfortunately, it is the end of the line for Ben Gregory now. He's gone off the circuit after one more spin. He heated up the rears too much, I think, in the previous spin, and that's been the end of Ben's night, I'm afraid. It's a real shame to see it, because he endured a hell of a lot up to that point. But we all know that once your race can spiral out of control, unfortunately, it can get to you more and more.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh.
See Brian Crowell's can give it a bit of bump actually to the rear end of the 48, or getting a bit of a bump in from behind actually, but that has basically given Brian Crowell the extra speed he needs to catch back up to Mike Corners. Who's that going way off? Is that Jacob Money going for a little bit of a jaunt off the circuit and back on again?
He had a big old slide there, Sunshine. That was a lovely little bit of footage there as the car floated its way out of turn 1. I still can't believe that this battle is all still stuck together there, Ed. It's gorgeous to watch, isn't it? Especially with this lighting now. Look at that. The way the cars all react to one another. This is excellent stuff. Really enjoying this one.
I love all the different manufacturers involved in the fight as well. Mercedes, Porsche and Aston Martin all together fighting away brilliantly. Jacob Money there right in the thick of it. Got John Barnes behind, Dan McCauley up in front. Mike Corder, well, he was about a second in front, but over the course of I think the bus stop and into turn 1, that was completely eaten up. The gap is back down to pretty much nothing.
Sorry about that. I was just having trouble changing cameras away for a moment there. My software was just having a bit of a fit. We've got Rob Sutherland all over the back of Paul Gosling here as well, just outside of the top 10. Don't forget that you get points all the way down to 20th position, so there's going to be a lot of point scorers tonight from the retirements that we've had, because so far we've had Ben Gregory, Gary Tall and Mark Johnson out of the race, and we may get more joining them. Fausto Pinto is off at the moment in the Scalant Pro driving Mercedes. Flipping heck, Fausto, that scared me. And I imagine it also scared Ralph Mayer a little bit as well, to say the least. Wow.
That is not something you really want to see, rejoins like that, but thankfully it didn't result in any incidents or contact. Now look at the speed of this Mercedes in the slipstream. It is an absolute demon. Oof. And all the way around the outside. Going to have to be very brave onto the brakes. He's got a nose just ahead as they make their way turning in for turn 1, but the inside line is so strong from Mike Corder. He's able to get it done, and actually the 41, brilliant bit of opportunities and shown by Dan McCauley to get up into 5th place. Can he have a go potentially to surprise Mike Corder into the International Horseshoe? No, not quite, stays behind 5th position.
This is important for the Teams Championship as well, because Boosted Simsport and Apex Racing Academy are only 9 points apart, and they're trying to fight with RD Simsport as well. So all of those teams have their drivers within the top sort of positions anyway. Ben Gregory, of course, out of the race now for Boosted Simsport, so it's important for Dan to keep the pressure on Mike and make sure that they close that gap down. RD Simsport, Callum Brandt and Christopher Smith leading the Teams Championship at the moment. Chris is very busy with Matthias Tem. These two very much on their own at the moment. 9 seconds ahead of the pair of them, 11 seconds behind the pair of them, so not too much to fight for in terms of overall places right now. Just got to keep each other entertained as this race goes on, and that's definitely what you're going to see at the front of the field as well. That seems like a very dramatic shot to cut to of Simon Povey launching the car out of the bus stop. Lewis Ward in 2nd place. Now Andy Hopley has called a last lap drag race out of the bus stop between these pair, and I don't think he's far from wrong, to be honest with you, Ed. What do you reckon?
I can always picture it in my mind. I can see it now, and very certain that's what Lewis Ward will be hoping for, but with his car just edging out ahead of the number 1. Look at the closing speed, though, of that McLaren. Lewis Ward will need to basically figure out how close he needs to be going into the bus stop to get the best run possible out of the bus stop. Then as well, another thing that Lewis Ward might be hoping for is just to completely win out on the strategy and be out of the slipstream after the pit stops, because that's going to be the real difference maker, is getting clear of the other car from the pit stop. If not, it will just be a drag race to the line, 100%.
Absolutely. There's been more changing and chopping and all sorts going on behind. Brian Crowell is now back ahead of Dan McCauley. John Barnes is now side by side with Jacob Money as well. Rob Sharp all the while is just watching this develop in front of him, and I imagine laughing his watch off, to be honest with you. I bet he's loving this, is Rob Sharp. He's got a great bit of entertainment on a Tuesday night, and look at that sky and the lighting. It looks very pretty now. I may have slated the shadows earlier, but There's a bit of a switch-over period with iRacing Shadows. It just doesn't quite look right. But this looks absolutely mega at the moment. Look at that. John Barnes, opportunistic. Sees Jacob Money run a little bit wide. Tries to put his nose down the inside. Dan McCauley tries to do the same on Brian Crowles, while Rob Sharp runs a little bit wide. And all of a sudden, this is looking good for Mike Horder, because he can start to break away, especially if Dan puts more pressure on Brian.
Yeah, I think Brian, though, will be closing down. You can just see how strong the slipstream is from this point of view from Mike Horder. We'll watch him all the way along the banking and then in towards turn 1, just so you can see it was a second, wasn't it, as they came onto the oval. Already it's down to 0.7 of a second as Mike scrapes the wall as far to the right as he can to really open up the bus stop. Left, then right, keep it balanced through the other right hander and then hits it out nicely. But look at that, Brian Crowles closing down, now half a second. That gap that was a second will now basically be down to nothing as they go onto the brakes in towards turn 1.
Yeah, it's now 4.5 of a second, 4 tenths, 3.5. Wow. Wow, oh wow. That is pretty remarkable, isn't it? Now, where's Dan McCauley in all this? That's one question you need to ask yourself. Dan's going to try and swoop around the outside of Brian and hopefully have the inside for the International Horseshoe. So late on the brakes is Dan McCauley. Tries to get around the pair of them. They've both gone a little bit deep, to be fair, though. Now he gets sideways. Jacob Money wants a bit of this as well. He's going to try and chip in side by side with Brian Crowles. Is Brian going to go later on the brakes than Dan McCauley? No, he's not. John Barnes wants a bit of it as well. Rob Sharp has got company, but that's not for position. That is Ralph Mayer. Dan McCauley and Jacob Money suddenly side by side again as well. Pretty amazing, this. Very, very interesting racing. So much going on every single lap. But I tell you what, these guys, I'm going to jinx it, Ed. These guys have been so respectful and so clean so far, haven't they, in this fight?
Chaz, what have you done?
I had to.
Actually, no, you're fine. You've said it. If I was to say it, then that would go horribly wrong, sir.
You might have thought it now, and that might put them off.
Oh, God.
For anyone that doesn't know,
I won't say it.
Ed has the strongest commentator's curse out of any commentator that I've ever known. He could literally just say J, and Jacob Money would have a massive accident. So, yeah, we need not Ed jinx these things. I'll do it.
Part of me wants to just pick a random driver now and just see what happens. I'll say something about him and then just see what happens.
Say something about the boss man. No.
Andy Marston. He's a lovely lad. Love him.
Oh, he seems all right.
I don't want to say anything about him. He's absolutely sweet. He sends me the kindest messages after every broadcast.
Well, we're not exactly going to sit here and call him a cretin, are we?
No,
we love
not
Andy.
Really.
He's the reason this is happening.
That is very much true. Now that we've put the cameras on him, we don't know what might happen next, Chaz. So we'll have a We'll move away.
Well, this is the problem, though.
To this battle.
The Chaz curse is normally when we move away from a battle. This is normally what happens. Jason's saying,
Andy Marston doing well. He's in 20th place. He's going to get himself at least a point here tonight, as things stand. Look at that battle again, though. Mike Horder, that's the thing. What do I have to do to get away from this lot? Because he's so quick through the infield. But then as soon as they get onto the banking, he could be a second ahead. But that's all completely undone by the time he gets to turn 1. And he's just left thinking, what do I do? How do I get away from this lot?
It's like a rabid bunch of fans just trying to chase him down for an autograph. Absolutely great to watch there, because they're all just sort of crawling all over each other and clambering on top of one another to try and get to him. It's just amazing. Christopher Smith, by the way, is into the pits in the BMW now. It's going to be really interesting to watch with what he does now, because he could potentially gain a lot from this and this sort of out-of-sync pit stop. Philip Hopley has had a moment here. I'm not quite sure what has caused it. Let's go back and have a look. It's on the bus stop. Whoa! One way, then the other. Gets a little bit of a kiss on the way through from Heinz Mayer as well. And that was a big old moment for Philip, but he's back up to speed now. And we go back to this battle once again. We're 2/3 race distance now, Ed. We've got 20 minutes left. And still, Simon Povey and Lewis Ward are the class of the field in their McLarens.
I had no idea that. I mean, the time was absolutely blitzed on by. It's been so good. Lewis Ward going under the apron and going into the pits.
Yep, the drivers have been.
This could be very interesting.
It could indeed. The drivers have been warned not to overtake under the line. It is something that apparently is up for debate, but I don't think it should be, because it's track limits at the end of the day. So they have been warned: do not undertake and do not go below that line. Now Callum Brandt has just gone through as well. We've not seen much of Callum recently, but he's been churning in the lap times. He's not been going as quick as the guys ahead of him though, unfortunately, so I don't think we're going to see the same resurgence in the final moments that we've seen in other rounds of this championship, but still, Callum has been an absolute staple at the front of the field so far this season. He's been great entertainment. So are this lot. Look at them all making their way around the first couple of corners. Jacob Money now down the inside of Brian Crowles. John Barnes wants a bit of that as well. Has to back out of it so he doesn't hit the back of the Mercedes. But we've got Aston Martin, Porsche, Mercedes, Aston Martin, Porsche. So we've got a good old mix of machines in here. We just need a BMW and a McLaren to round it all off.
Lewis Ward has come out in behind Mydas Tem. This could have a big ramification for the rest of tonight in terms of the lead battle. We'll keep an eye on that, but we'll mainly focus on this huge tussle for what is now at the moment third position.
But it's going to be for fourth in the end, isn't it? Because of when Lewis Ward comes back out, when Simon and Callum have their stops and these lot have their stops, it's all going to be fourth outright from that point onwards. But you'll see now the slipstream will gradually start to work. It's not an instant effect in these GT4 cars, is it? It's very gradual in the way that it works, but they've not got the highest top speed in the world, so anything to help them will certainly have a strong effect. It's not really this part of it that makes the big difference. It's the run out of the bus stop. Jacob Money now ahead of Dan McCauley. But if we look at Brian Crowles here in the Mercedes, look at the run that Dan's got. He's all over the back of the Porsche already, but that's not what you want. You don't want to be glued to the car in front from the get-go. You want to be really far back and then get a slingshot. You can see Dan's backed out of it. Brian's backing out of it as well. Watch the bottom of his shot for John Barnes appearing out of nowhere. Says Aston Martin's going to suddenly rocket up to the back of them. Dan McCauley makes it clear that he's going to go into the pits. Brian Crowles goes into the pits as well. So too does Jacob Money. Dan's tried to cut that line down. That's scary, isn't it? Very scary indeed. But now they've got a race down pit lane. Hopefully they are still... Oh, they're not ghosting through each other.
No.
Oh, flipping heck. And I hope Jacob's box is before Dan's. Well, now that they're in that part of it, they will ghost through each other. But wow, that's a scary moment. Povey is in the pits as well. We've missed that. Well, I've missed that.
He's responded.
Yeah.
Responding to what his rival has done. He's already come out. Let's have a look for...
Lewis Ward's gone through.
He's just... Has he gone all through already?
He's gone.
Oh my word, he has.
Wow.
He's got a huge advantage. That is massive.
I thought it was going to be like Simon to a car length because we couldn't see Lewis, but he's already gone. I was looking further and further down the order, but no. He's absolutely disappeared up the road. He's got
enough fuel to the end.
Oh, that's... Oh, I don't know. He's been saving a lot of it, so he's not had to put as much in, has he?
He's only taken 15.
That's
He's done the same as Dan McCauley, who came in at the exact same time as well. So I guess Apex Racing Academy have worked something out to save a huge amount of time.
Well, I think, to be fair, if you think about it, Dan's been in the thick of that battle all the way through. Lewis has been sat behind Simon all the way through. So he's maybe just calling Simon's bluff now, isn't he? And it's worked.
It's a huge amount of fuel to have saved, though. So let's have a look at Simon Povey's amount of fuel he's taken.
22.5 seconds.
In the pits. 22.5.
That's 7 seconds more.
That is a huge amount of time. I mean, actually, the gap between, let's have a look, Simon Povey and Lewis Ward is, what, 10 seconds?
I shouldn't laugh because it's one of my cars. Obviously, in an unbiased way, it'd be nice for Simon to win, but that's amazing. Amazing. And what is amazing as well, Mike Horder again, having an amazing race here. He's right at the front of the field now, temporarily, of course, with Rob Sharp in behind him. John Barnes has gone into the pits. Lewis Ward is ahead of Mydas Tem, and both of them have stayed out, which is interesting. So this could potentially slow Lewis down a bit. I don't think Mydas is getting in his way here, though. He doesn't want to overtake him. Maybe he's thinking about saving fuel. But that would be a real kick in the teeth for Lewis if Mydas tried hard enough to overtake him and slowed him down a little bit. And I've been told that Callum is very ill, actually, and he's still managing to race. So hats off to Callum. Bless him. I'm commentating ill and Callum's racing ill, so between the two of us, we're having to show how sturdy we are at this point. So, pit stops then, Ed. Let's just have a quick reminder for everybody who hasn't stopped yet. There's a bunch of drivers in the mid-pack. We've got Mike Horder and Rob Sharp up front. Mydas Tem hasn't pitted again either. John Tusting is another driver that needs to still pit here in the Aston Martin. And then Paul Goffin as well up in 10th place. So there's a few drivers that will move up and down. Brian Crowles is back in the pits for some reason.
Oh dear.
And again,
Maybe speeding in the pit lane, got himself a penalty perhaps.
yeah, he's been stationary for more than 24 seconds now already. So again, unfortunately, an exciting race for Brian Crowles after a great qualifying performance unravels itself once more.
Let's have a look though. Mike Calder and Rob Sharp will really benefit, I think, from their later pit stops because they got clear air. They're completely out of the way of that huge battle that they were a part of. Mike Calder's probably been thinking, what do I have to do? Well, he knows what he needs to do now is put in laps that are absolutely demon in terms of their pace to get ahead. He comes into the pits now. Rob Sharp follows him in. Will that have been enough to give him the advantage into the pits? Let's have a look. Who was part of that fight? I think it was John Tusting and Callum Brandt all in the midst of it. So we will watch for them.
John still needs to pit, actually. It was Callum, Dan and Jacob Money, but they're all spread out. Callum's 3.9 seconds ahead. Jacob Money is 2.8 seconds behind Dan McCauley. And then John Barnes is like 7 seconds back from Dan as well. So that's really spread out. Christopher Smith is 22
Dan really
seconds.
short-fueled.
Ah, yeah, that's very true.
Callum was, I think, clear in third already.
Yes, he was.
So it'll probably be down to, I don't know who.
Well, it was going to be
when we see them come into the pits.
Jacob Money and John Barnes, really, wasn't
it?
No, Christopher Smith was about 9-10 seconds off the back of them. So really, all we've got left from it is John Barnes, Mike Horder, and Jacob Money. John's hit the wall on his way out. Let's hope that doesn't damage the car too much because he's only got about 13 minutes left to do.
Rob Sharp's jumped him.
Yep, Rob's gone ahead.
As well. Miles as well. Miles faster in the pits, taking only 17 seconds worth of fuel compared to Mike's 21.
But look at that though. Rob Sharp is only 0.6 of a second behind Dan McCauley, so he's played a blinder in the pits here as Rob. That's fantastic.
Yeah, Dan McCauley's really came up the order as well, actually, though, in the pits. He's been a real benefactor from that short fuel. He's taken in 14 seconds worth of fuel, the lowest amount of everybody in the field. So if there is anyone that will run up toward the end,
this one
it will be Dan McCauley first.
I'm sure he's going to love you for saying that.
Maybe second.
Wow. We've got this going on. This is some shenanigans further down. John Roberts, Fausto Pinto and Brian Crowles trying to part the seas. John Roberts says, nah, stuff that, I'm going to go and have a brew. Down the inside goes Brian. Fausto around the outside now in the number 23 Mercedes. You can hear that sort of transmission whistle that the Mercedes has from distance. And Brian goes through. There's another Mercedes joining them as well. Heinz Mayer coming back out onto the track. But wow, oh wow. Lewis Ward, 9 seconds clear at the moment from Simon Povey. Now, if that's not a strategy working completely to plan, Ed, I don't know what is, because that is glorious by Lewis Ward. Fair play.
They've really put in a lot of that behind the scenes, as you can tell, for this strategy to work the way it has. It is brilliant for Apex Racing Academy at the moment. But I still can't believe how they managed to save that amount of fuel, or that amount of time in the pit stops, relative to everybody else.
Yeah, it's just mad, isn't it? Because you think, yeah, maybe you can gain a second or so here and there. You know, it's only an hour-long race. To save that much fuel really shows how vital it is around a circuit like this, because obviously we all know how long you are on the throttle here at Daytona and how full on it is, especially for the banking, especially because you have to really commit if you're going to make anything of it at the banking. You know, you can't risk letting off or slowing down at all if you're the lead car in the train, because you risk having those positions taken away from you, and then that's it. You might not get them back again. So it's so tough to judge.
Just trying to work it out. That could be around about 2 laps worth of fuel that have been saved, and it's not a short lap here. It's nearly a 2-minute lap time. So he's essentially saved, what, 4 minutes worth of fuel?
Yeah.
Or put 4 minutes less of fuel in compared to Simon Povey. That is immense if that's the case.
It's just on a different level, isn't it?
I don't know how he's done it. I genuinely don't know how it's possible to save that amount of fuel.
We need to keep an eye on his lap times, I think, towards the end of the race. I think that's all we can do from this point onwards.
He's quickest in Sector 2 on this last lap, but I think in Sectors 3, 4 and 5, which are onto the banking, I can't imagine him being that quick relatively. And in fact, actually, we saw that last lap, Sector 5 was well over a second slower than Simon's.
Yeah.
So that's probably where he's saving a lot of fuel, making up most of the time in the first sector, but losing a lot. And actually the gap's come down now to 8.3 seconds. It was 10 earlier. So we'll keep an eye on Simon Povey's pace relative to Lewis. This could get very interesting. Dan McCauley as well is probably fuel saving something fierce, and has just overshot his braking marker and been overtaken by Rob Sharp and maybe Jacob Money in towards the International Horseshoe. Porsche's very good on its brakes, and we'll see a great demonstration of that. Hard onto the brake pedal.
Lovely.
Moved on nicely, and I think Dan McCauley is more worried about his fuel than worrying about his position by the looks of things there. He didn't fight that one too much.
No, I think he just made sure that he ran wide, gave a little bit of room to Jacob, and he's just going to sit behind him now and potentially save until the end. But yeah, it's a tough one to defend that, but he just overdid it into the first corner, and it's so easy to do that as well because you're just trying to get the car turned in. You've got sort of two levels to that corner. There's two apexes on the way in, and then you've got the fact that you're coming off the banking as well. Then it all levels out very suddenly. It's hard to get that right. As a bit of a blink in and out there by Jacob Money. That won't fill the guys around him with much confidence. But third in the championship, Rob Sharp is doing an amazing job at the moment. He may be losing points to the two drivers ahead of him in the championship, but it's not going to be many. And Rob is going to pretty much outscore everybody else in the field if it stays the way it is. So he's having a terrific campaign so far in the Orris Racing machine. Very shiny Porsche. But he's got the other one, the Sapphire Simsport machine of Jacob Money, right behind him as well. It's good to see the Porsches going well actually around here, to be honest with you, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, part of me wonders what might happen if these two teamed up. They would be really high up in the team standings because they've had some good results. And we're having a great result here tonight, both in the Porsche. Rob Sharp hasn't got a teammate. Jacob Money doesn't have a teammate. I wonder if we might have created a little bit of an idea for him perhaps, because they are going really nicely at the moment and helping each other out. Bump drafting to get away from Dan McCauley.
I don't know if that would be helping or more scaring at this point, to be honest. We've got John Barnes going past Mike Horder here very suddenly. There's a big difference in speed there coming down towards turn one. I'm not sure if maybe Mike Horder got a slowdown penalty out of the chicane or something a little bit earlier. Two more Aston Martins having a bit of a kiss as well, which is Rob Sutherland and John Tusting. They've got Paul Gosling right behind them in the BMW. Look at that thing go, it's like a train. Absolutely carving its way past on the right hand side. Paul Gosling's going to be laughing his head off at that. Rob Sutherland hasn't got enough slipstream to get around the outside of John Tusting at that point. Oh, he's got enough slipstream to hit the back of him though. I think John's braking caught him out. Gosling's gone way out wide now as well. They're all going to concertina together on the exit of the first corner, and now they're just going to make it go back single file again. Epic entertainment once more from this championship. Sutherland looking back down the inside of Tusting. Nothing the RAF can do to save you there. Oh, look at that run that Sutherland's got on the exit. Tusting really ran deep. Couldn't quite get the car launched out there as well. Side by side through turn 4. Oh, that's always scary through there. This is great stuff though, isn't it, Ed? One way then the other. Rob Sutherland's going to be spinning around like I don't know what at the minute.
This is brilliant. Oh, and again another little twitch on the exit. That car is not settled for John Tusting whatsoever at those corner exits. He is nowhere in comparison to Rob Sutherland. It's the car that's nicely bounced and planted. Again, a little bit of a twitch. And all of a sudden, as they get onto the banking, Sutherland's going to be right on the back. But you don't want to be this close coming off those corners. You want to be a little bit further back. But actually, Rob Sutherland goes wide. That gives a bit more space to properly attack now in towards the bus stop. Keep your eyes open for that BMW, who is rapidly approaching the pair of them, but can't find a way through. They go side by side, and they're going to slow both of them down. Oh my word, I thought there was going to be contact there, Chaz.
I thought there was.
Somehow Rob Sutherland gets the move made in one piece, but now watch out for the BMW.
I don't know how they didn't hit each other there. Rob Sutherland certainly closed the door and made sure that he called John Tusting's bluff, but that was excellent. Absolutely excellent. Hats off to him for having the commitment to do that. And now Paul Gosling's going to stamp on the accelerator again. Now look, he's going to go with his teammate around the outside. The two of them working together here. This is Boosted Motorsport B and Boosted Motorsport. John Tusting racing for just Boosted Motorsport. I say just, it's just, that's all the name is. Around the outside, great move by John. Amazing stuff, absolutely amazing. And now Rob Sutherland's going to try and come back at him, isn't he?
Again, it was that corner exit. It was so nice on turning, but as soon as he gets onto the throttle, maybe he's a little bit too heavy with his right foot. That's a lovely move. That now is able to stay ahead. Callum Brandt has just set the fastest lap of the race so far. No slipstream whatsoever. He is absolutely lightning fast at this moment.
He really is. He's so quick in these later stages of the race. He's a joy to keep an eye on. Really is. He's got 7.6 seconds ahead of him to Simon Povey, though, and he's not catching him at a rate quick enough to beat him to the flag, even if he continues to put those sorts of laps on the board. Simon's almost doing personal bests on each lap as well. Lewis Ward's about 6/10 off his personal best that time around. His fastest is actually, well, he's about 8/10 off, 9/10 off, because his best is a 1:52.3 and he's done a 53.2.
Just had a thought, Chaz. Lewis Ward came over the line there at the pretty much the 4-minute mark. So when he gets to the very end of the race, he's going to have, what, 20 seconds on the clock before starting a whole final lap. Maybe this race is going one lap longer than Apex Racing Academy have expected, because I can't imagine making it on that amount of fuel.
I really can't either, to be honest with you. I've got no clue how he's going to manage it, but there's only one way to find out here at Daytona in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Here on Chaz Draycott Media, you've got Chaz Draycott and Ed May in the commentary box for you. And this wonderful championship is sponsored by Blinds to Go, Mydas Simulations, Crockery Direct and Orris Digital. Our wonderful sponsors helping us out and making all this happen. And our wonderful drivers are making stuff like this happen as well. 3 wide, Rob Sutherland in the middle, nearly comes down on John Tusting there. John does the right thing, in my opinion, gets out of that one. He says no thank you. Now you've got Paul Gosling trying to get the better of the pair of these Aston Martins. One of them may be one of his stable mates, but he's going to try everything he can to get through. That BMW is such a menacing and odd-looking GT4 car in comparison to the others. I absolutely love the thing. It's a great bit of kit. But still the battles continue, though. Dan McCauley's in 6th place now, tucked right up behind Rob Sharp. The pair of them need to work together here to go chasing after Jacob Money, though, don't they?
They do. Of course, the slipstream is ever so strong that Jacob Money doesn't really need too much help to close up to the back end. Jacob Money there, but let's have a look. Rob Sharp, look at him through the bus stop. Car's slightly unsettled, but turns in nicely. He can turn it a lot more of a steeper angle than the Aston Martin, who takes it nice and shallow. And there you can see Lewis Waters up to the line. 2 minutes to go. Simon Povey's really closed down, though. I think Lewis Waters is saving so much fuel. Simon's taking chunks of time out of him.
He is indeed. 6.7 seconds now, the gap. And Simon is on the move, it's safe to say. It's very exciting because now we've got, once again, one of these situations where it's always Lewis Ward as well. It's Lewis always near the end of a race. He's the man that's just got to get the car home, and he's got somebody chasing him down ferociously. It's been Callum Brandt 2 weeks in a row, and now he's got it with Simon Povey, because there goes Lewis going through the hairpin, and there is Simon on the way into it. The gap's down to 6.63, and all of a sudden it's looking like it could go one way then the other. He just needs to navigate past Kim Such. It's not like you can miss that thing, is it? Around the BMW he goes. Kim's just inside the top 20 at the moment. 4 places gained in this race, so he's on to score some points here. And we've got one more lap left after this one, I imagine. I don't think this is going to be the final lap for Lewis Ward. He's not got long enough to be able to slow down.
It will not be the final lap, and that was what I said earlier. He'll come over the time being with about 15 seconds remaining. And has he anticipated this? You can see the timer's ticked down. Oh, this is going to be so close, because if he's been able to save that amount of fuel, I will be absolutely gobsmacked. But what he's done so far with the strategy has been just completely blinding, hasn't it? It's been amazing.
It really has.
Really be able to go till the end.
Well, it's still 6.7 seconds even now at this point, to be honest with you. I think he might have
committing to it.
Yeah, I think he might have realised that he's got enough to make it to the end, and he's now gunning it. But here we go then. Final lap of the race here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge at Daytona. Lewis Ward in the Apex Racing Academy McLaren leads. Simon Povey in the Spontex CDM Esports McLaren. Lewis has short fueled on both of his stops. Simon's short fueled on just one of them. And now it comes down to one final lap. There's 6.6 seconds between them, and Simon, you can tell already, is pushing very hard to chase after the current race leader and try to take that victory. Here are the battles a little bit further down. We've got Jacob Money and Rob Sharp for 4th, 5th and 6th. Then we've got John Barnes and Mike Horder, the 2 teammates, fighting together as well. They're just coming into turn 1. Then Rob Sutherland in the RD Sim Sport 2 Aston Martin ahead of Boosted Motorsport B and A's John Tusting and Paul Gosling. What have you seen, Ed?
I just thought Rob Sutherland dropped back a little bit. I thought he was going to try and break away from Paul Gosling, but actually they've stayed with him. That was something that I was maybe not expecting to see. As well, we've got Fausto Pinto in a bit of a battle, I think, with Brian Crowells towards the end of the race as well.
Yeah, about 0.8 of a second between the two of them, so they're going to try and maybe switch that around. I think Brian's just got past him, actually, not too long ago, and now he's just working on extending that gap. But Lewis Ward, he has extended his gap at the front of the field. I think he's ready to make this to the end here, Ed. I think he's finally going to beat Simon on the road here. This is going to be epic if he does this.
Absolutely. Lewis Ward just rounds out the final bend now. Will be coming through to win the third race of the season, his second of the season, and his third overall in history of SRM GT4 Challenge. Won the final race of the season at Barcelona, if memory serves correct. We'll come over the line now to add yet another victory to his growing tally of results.
Fantastic victory by Lewis Ward here at Daytona for Apex Racing Academy. Beats Simon Povey by 6.8 seconds in the end. So if anything, he nearly extended that gap. Epic performance. 2 in a row for Lewis Ward. Callum Brandt gets 100% record of podiums. Very well done to him. And here's the drag to the line behind. We've got Rob Sharp around the outside of Jacob Money. Dan McCauley around the pair of them. And Dan McCauley's going to do it across the line. Fantastic stuff by Dan. He gets 4th place over Rob Sharp and Jacob Money. Well, if COVID hadn't topped my voice off, my Scottish mate from Apex Racing Academy has just done that. Wow.
3,000 between Rob Sharp and Jacob Money, those
Fantastic.
2 Porsches.
Oh, that was beautiful. Here's another one to watch, actually. Rob Sutherland, John Tusting and Paul Gosling. The other two are there in this shot. Now watch that BMW. Like I said before, it's going to be like a train coming through here. He's going to get an almighty run on the pair of them. John Tusting moves to the right-hand side. He's going to be the only one that's going to get close enough. Is he going to beat Rob Sutherland to the line? He's not. Rob gets it, takes the top 10. Tusting and Gosling not quite close enough. Brian Crowells and Fausto Pinto could be the finale in this amazing, amazing spectacle of watching cars slipstream past each other. Now, this is only 6/10. I reckon this could work here for him.
I think Brian Crowell's got a really nice run out, though, and you can only see the time just trickling down now. I think he might be safe as they get to the line. It could be close, though, as Fausto Pinto is closing down. As you can see, the green marker up at the right-hand side shows that the line is coming up, and it will be Brian Crowell's to take home 14th place, but I still think he'll be disappointed considering he started on the front row of the grid. His race pace just wasn't there again tonight.
And of course he had the issue partway through the race. He had a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He sped on the way out, so he accelerated a little bit too early. Callum Brandt, another amazing performance tonight. 12 places gained in that race. He was a real superstar in that one once more. And especially with the fact that he's really ill as well. He's still racing like that, at that sort of pace. Fastest lap of the race by 0.2 of a second with no slipstream. That's just incredible stuff. But how Lewis Ward made that strategy work and won that race by such a distance as well, with the ability to push on the final lap and go quicker than Simon Povey on the last lap. That's just bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
I hope we can have a chat to him. I hope we can figure out what on earth went into all the preparation beforehand, because both himself and Dan McCauley, Apex Racing Academy, have got a huge haul of points here tonight. 1st and 4th. That is massive for them, and they both did it on the same strategy, putting in late and with the least amount of fuel they could possibly take on board. It was a supreme strategy victory.
It really was. That was gorgeous to watch. Absolutely gorgeous. And we hope you enjoyed that as well, of course. We're going to be just having a quick look through the results just now, and we'll get the reaction from a couple of the drivers as well. Here are your results then for round 3 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Lewis Ward wins the race in an incredible performance, 6.8 seconds clear of Simon Povey, but still a great return for Simon to get some solid points on the board. Callum Brandt gets another great podium. Dan McCauley finishes 4th in an amazing finale there, ahead of Rob Sharp, and according to that results screen, it was only 0.02 of a second ahead of Jacob Money, so it's even closer. Then we've got John Barnes in 7th place, Mike Horder in 8th, another good haul of points for him. RD Simsport get all 3 cars inside the top 10. Christopher Smith in 9th, Rob Sutherland in 10th. He was just ahead of John Tusting and Paul Gosling. Paul Goffin was next up in 13th position for SRM Racing Team A. Then it's Brian Crowell's 14th. Another race not going Brian's way. Fausto Pinto finishing in 15th, ahead of Heinz Mayer in 16th. Matthias Tem 1 lap down in 17th place. Kim Such in 18th position. Behind them we had Drew Fletcher in 19th. He gets some points, so too does John Roberts after continuing on after his early debacles. Andrew Marston finishes 21st, 1 lap down. So too does Ralph Mayer, Ryan Penny and Philip Hopley. The non-finishers were Tom Weston, 12 laps down, Ben Gregory, 26th, then Gary Tall, and unfortunately Mark Johnson, the first retirement from the race. So we're going to hit the rewind button now, Ed. We're going to go back to the very start of the race, maybe even just go for the green flag lap, and all of a sudden you can see it's a lot prettier and a lot brighter as it all started. But that just seems like forever ago now, doesn't it? Because what a hell of a race that was.
Oh, I think I've just got my breath back. Maybe. That was one heck of a race. We said after Sebring, look forward to Daytona because it never disappoints, and I think it delivered, and then some. A brilliant night's worth of racing here in the SRM GT4 Challenge. I can't imagine there being any track that these cars can't race at, you know. We've seen some excellent battles so far this season. I believe we have a little bit of a intermission, don't we, for the Christmas period.
Yeah.
And then we get back to it yet again.
Yeah, we do indeed. The championship will return on the 3rd of January when we go over the pond, so we've got plenty of time to travel across the Atlantic and get to Silverstone for the 4th round of the season. But, well, I'm sure someone's going to want a break after that one because he was working very hard. It's Dan McCauley who joins us in the box. Dan, that was one hell of a finish as well, to be fair. A great result for you and the guys, getting 5 places gained and Lewis taking the win. But you certainly worked hard on that one, mate. You must have been very pleased with that.
I think that was doing it for Dale, summed up pretty nicely there. I put the Aston in eco mode for the full race, and it seemed to work. But then when I came out the pits the second time, I was so close on fuel, so I was trying to fuel save, but Rob, with his golden touch on the throttle, had saved enough to keep going flat out at the end, and he caught me. Then Jacob caught me as well, so I was like, alright, great, I'll drop 2 places, and I was quite happy to sit behind Rob. Like on the last lap, I was like, I'll bump draft you up to Jacob to try and get him a chance, and then yeah, somehow managed to drag myself around the outside of both of them. I'm quite chuffed, to say the least.
I'm not surprised. I mean, to be fair, I was just saying before that if COVID hadn't finished off my voice by now, that finale certainly did. I was screaming. It was absolutely epic to watch. And the fact that the other two as well were separated on our initial results screen, were separated by 0.03 of a second. And then it was actually refined down to 0.02 of a second by the time the second result came up. So it was just an amazing battle. And to be fair to everybody, there was about 6 or 7 of you for most of that race, wasn't there? That were all glued together. And it seemed like everyone had just a great time.
It was fun. Well, it was really frustrating the first 3 laps, and then it got fun after. I think everyone kind of decided to try and dive for position at the start, and that's why Lewis and Simon got away.
Yeah.
But after that, when we were having our own little battle, yeah, it was quite good fun. I think Jacob worked with everyone really well to get himself up to where he was, just by bump drafting and stuff. But then, you know, a few dive bombs sent the whole pack like into a bit of a wider spread at some sections.
Yeah.
But then yeah, I think it kind of, the experience kind of played out in the last stint where, you know, everyone that fuel saved ended up at the front, and everybody that got a bit too eager kind of dropped to the lower top 10. So yeah, it was great fun.
Well, it was certainly a round that a lot of us were looking forward to. I mean, we knew that last time out it was just amazing at Daytona, and it certainly hasn't disappointed this time round either, I should say. What I was going to say though is, of course, we now have a bit of a break before Silverstone. Are you and Lewis going to be working hard on testing for that one as well, or are you just going to chill out over Christmas?
I think I've qualified into Carrera Cup GB again, so that'll be the priority for practice over the Christmas period. But I think to make life a little bit easier for me, I might jump into the McLaren for the remaining rounds, because it seems so much easier to drive than this Aston at the minute.
Interesting.
So that will be something we need to test.
Interesting to hear. Very interesting to hear. Well, I hope whatever decision you make will be worth it in the long run. Obviously, still a lot of the season left to go, mate. But what are your thoughts so far at this point in the championship? Because it looks like you've had the rough and the smooth so far.
It's absolutely mega. It's just a whole load of it seems like everyone's known each other for years, sort of community. The majority are fairly respectful. You always get a race no matter where you are on the field. Like, even when you're at the back or you've had a crash, oh look, someone else is in the same situation, and you end up with a good little half an hour battle with them. And you always come off smiling. Even round 1, where I didn't finish, I was still smiling. So, kind of says a lot for the championship.
Absolutely, and it's great to have you as well, and as a team as well as Apex Racing Academy, it's awesome to have the name in the championship. Is there anyone you'd like to give a quick shout out to, Dan, before we let you go?
Big shout out to Lewis for dominating that one, and a big shout out to Rob and Jacob for coming to the line there, because they easily could have just touched each other and taken all 3 of us out, but instead they kept it clean, and gave us a mega finish.
It really was good to watch, Dan. Thanks once again for joining us, mate, and have a great Christmas and New Year, and I'm sure I'll speak to you very soon.
Cheers, guys. You too.
Cheers. Well, there we go. Dan McCauley was certainly in the thick of it throughout that one, wasn't he, Ed? He had a lot to work on, but again, as he said, he still comes away smiling. That's great to hear.
And it's a huge testament to everything that's been built up here in the Sim Racing Magazine community. It's a wonderful, wonderful league to be a part of, and I have to say it is amazing that we have all these drivers that come in and they still feel like it's a welcoming community for them, because obviously, like you say, a few drivers have been racing together for so long, but you feel like you've been part of the furniture for years. I mean, I'm the same. I've only been here for, well, season 1 of the GT4 challenge, and it is so welcoming.
It absolutely is, and there's a great bunch of people that all really do race together so well. And another one that was involved in that trio at the end there with that epic finish. It may not have completely gone his way, but Jacob Money would have been loving that one. Jacob, great to have you in the box. Great to have you back on the grid again. We missed you at Sebring. You must have loved that race, mate, because once again, you were always in the thick of it with Dan and all the others.
Yeah, that was definitely a fun one. I think all I can say I did was just try and stay out of trouble. And then I knew coming into the last 20 minutes, got to start making moves now. So after the pit stops, everyone seemed to spread out a bit. So I was quite thankful I was actually able to catch up to Dan again. And then I thought, right, let's just get in front, because I felt I was a bit stronger through the bus stop. So I was like, I can keep the run to the line if I get the bus stop right, but I messed up on the last lap at the bus stop.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's one of those races where you can have a really clean race all the way through and nail that bus stop every single time. And then when it comes to the one important run at the end of the race, it can all go completely to pot, can't it? It's just typical. It's sod's law, isn't it?
Yeah. All race, it was a bit to and from, who's leading, who's just sitting back, who's sitting behind. I tried to just sit behind and not really go for any moves, because I knew the pack in front of me was just going for overtakes at every corner, so they were just slowing each other down. So I could just sit at the back. If they were starting to pull away, I knew going into the next corner I'd catch them back up again, because they'd go too wide.
Well, that's it again. It's one big game of I was going to say game of jigsaw. You can tell that my head's mashed, but it's like one big game of chess, isn't it? These races, because especially on a track that's so dependent on the slipstream as well, you need to think about who you're going to be around and when and for how long, and how it's going to affect you in the pit stops and all sorts. Because that slipstream is so important that losing it just kills your race sometimes. But other times, it can make it, because you can lose other gaps, or other groups, I should say, a bit further down. We, of course, go to Monza later in the season. That's a similar kettle of fish with a massive amount of slipstreaming there. Do you think it's going to be a similar entertaining race there?
I do and I don't. I think there'll definitely be a very big slipstream train, but I feel Daytona and nature, you can keep packs together with the level of downforce the cars will be running, whereas at Monza it's very low downforce. So if you're following someone through the back section, you're probably going to struggle to stick with them.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of different elements for us to keep our eye on there, and I think it's, again, going to be an absolute corker. What are your thoughts so far on the season? I know that you missed Sebring, but it looks like you've been in the thick of it for both rounds that you've attended so far, so you must be getting a decent experience out of it for sure. Yeah,
I mean, still annoyed at myself after Road Atlanta, and I've apologised to Dan profusely for the incident. Yeah, it was annoying I couldn't be there for Sebring. I was here for Daytona, and the next one's at Silverstone, which has always been quite a good track for me, so we'll wait and see what happens, but I'll be happy if I can keep these sort of positions for the rest of the season.
Well, we look forward to watching it as well, Jacob. You're one of the most entertaining drivers on the grid, so hopefully we'll see more of that in the gorgeous, I must say, Sapphire Simsport Porsche. It's a very good-looking car, and I hope to see it glinting away beautifully in the sunshine once again. Is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks to while we've got you?
I'd probably have to say Martin Pearson. He's definitely one who's been helping out with all the liveries. Coda Skins, who actually creates them, and Isaac Barkley, who tends to be the one contacting the livery person to get them done.
Wonderful stuff. Well, always a pleasure, Jacob. Thank you very much for joining us, mate, and well done on your results, and enjoy your Christmas and New Year, and we'll see you at Silverstone, mate. Have a good one.
Well, cheers.
Well, there we go, Ed. Jacob Money, again, another driver that's right in the thick of it from the get-go in these races. Great to watch, and to be honest, I can't wait to see how he gets on for the rest of the season as well.
No, it should be absolutely cracking to see so much just action and battling all throughout the season, not just from him, but from so many drivers. No, Chaz, do we have time for one more interview? Perhaps we can squeeze somebody in, or
we're going to call it there, I'm afraid. We are going to call it at this point. But it's been one hell of a race, as we expected from Daytona, and I don't think either of us could say that it disappointed in the slightest, can we?
No, it didn't. And I mean, tell you what, we can look forward to a nice Christmas break, but don't worry, the SRM GT4 Challenge will be returning, well, just at the start of the new year, won't it?
It will indeed, yes. As mentioned before, the championship will return on the 3rd of January at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, and it is going to be a great round. But for those of you that have been watching and with us so far in the championship, thank you very much for joining us here on Chaz Draycott Media for the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Thank you very much, Ed May. It's always a pleasure to commentate with you, my friend. And of course, well done to Lewis Ward on an amazing drive today. Well done also to Simon Povey and Callum Brandt for their podium finishes. That's all, though, from us here on Chaz Draycott Media. And that is all from the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge for 2022. As we've said, please have yourselves a wonderful Christmas and New Year. We love you all, and we will see you again very soon. But for now, enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Opportunistic, still rubbing panels as they go together. It's folded the wing mirror in on Gerardo's car. Misano is such a difficult circuit for these guys to get right. There's a lot of start-stop sections around the back. It's a very quick section as well.
It's a fantastic start from the 23. They're 4 wide there by the look of it.
Warning: the following video contains flashing imagery that may cause discomfort and or seizures for those with photosensitive epilepsy. Viewer discretion is advised.
Tell me somebody how long he will be on my mind. You will be on my mind.